Hello and welcome back to the music department at Edenham High School. In this video we're going to be showing you all the technical exercises that you need to know if you're going to play the bass guitar as part of your Edenham instrumental program. In this video you'll see us demonstrate a few scales and a couple of arpeggios, everything that you need to know to be able to pass stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. So here we go. Okay, so the first scale that we're going to have a look at for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program is an E major scale. Now this scale has got 7 notes in it, and we're going to talk about it using a similar method to the way we talk about guitar. We'll talk about string numbers, strings 1, 2, 3 and 4, string 1 being the thinnest string, string 4 being the thickest string, and frets up and down the neck, the little metal bars which are up and down the neck, they're called our frets, and you'll hear me refer to either a string number and a fret number at the same time. First scale is an E major scale. I'm going to play it through for you once and then we'll have a look at it in a little bit more detail. This is how it sounds. Okay, so an E major scale in a little bit more detail. We're starting with string number 4, and what you're going to do is you're just going to play that with your first finger on your right hand, or your left hand if you're left-handed, and you're just going to pull through the string to get the sound that you're after. So it's string number 4 on its own to start with. That's our first note. We're then going to stay on string number 4, but we're going to hold it down at fret number 2. And again, pull through that string with the first finger on your other hand. Our next note, we're staying on string number 4, but we're going up to fret number 4. And that's your first 3 notes. So I'll play them for you again. String 4 on its own, followed by string 4 at fret number 2, string 4 at fret number 4. Okay, now at this point we're going to move over to string number 3. Still play it with the first finger on your right hand or your left hand if you're left-handed. And your next note is string number 3 played on its own. Then we're going to stay on string number 3, but hold it down at fret number 2. And then the next note, again on string number 3, and hold it down at fret number 4. Okay? Now if you prefer to think of patterns, you may notice that the way that we move up string number 4 is similar to the way we moved up string number 3. You've got a string on its own, then fret 2 and fret 4, and same pattern on string number 3. The string on its own, then fret 2 and 4. So you can think of it that way if you want to. Next note in this E major scale, we're going over to string number 2, and we're going to hold it down at fret number 1, and then we finish with string number 2 again at fret number 2. They're the notes for our E major scale. It's worth pointing out as well that when you play through that scale, you're playing over the range of 1 octave. That's a range of 1 octave between the first note and the last note. I'll play the scale for you now without stopping, just so you get the sound of it one more time. This is your E major scale for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Okay, moving on, there's another scale to learn, and that is the scale of A major. And this is you also need to know this for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Now, the scale of A major that I'm going to show you is very similar in its pattern to E major. Let me play it through for you once, and then we'll break it down into little small steps. So this is a scale of A major over 1 octave. Here we go. Now if we were to just simply look at the pattern, for our A major scale, we'll start on string number 3, and then we've got that string on its own, then played at fret 2 and fret 4. Then we're moving on to string number 2 and using the same pattern, string on its own, fret 2, fret 4. And then string number 1, fret number 1, and string number 1, fret number 2. And the actual pattern of how you move your fingers in your hand is very similar to the E major scale, except everything is shifted over one string. But let's just look at it in small details, one step at a time. So our A major scale over 1 octave starts with string number 3 played on its own, followed by string number 3 at fret 2, and then string number 3 at fret 4. Moving over to string number 2, played on its own. String number 2 at fret number 2. String number 2 at fret number 4. Moving over to string number 1, fret number 1. And finally string number 1, fret number 2. Play it for you one more time. This is the A major scale that you need to know for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Here we go. Okay, the next scale you need to know about, again, is a major scale, and this is a G major scale. They're all quite similar. The main difference comes from which note they actually start on. So you've had E major, A major, and this is G major, G for golf. Okay. This time we're going to start on string number 4, but we're going to hold it down to start with, and we're going to hold it at fret number 3. I'm going to play that note on its own. Then we're going to stay on string number 4 and move up to fret number 5. So that's different in its pattern compared to the first 2 scales, because you don't have a string to play on its own at the start of the scale. So G major, your first 2 notes, string number 4, fret number 3, and string number 4, fret number 5. Now we're moving over to string number 3, okay, and the first note for string number 3 is at fret number 2. So we've got string 3, fret number 2, staying on string 3, moving up to fret number 3, and then moving up to fret number 5. And I'll just play through those first 5 notes because that's a lot of information to take on. Starting on string number 4, fret number 3, your first 5 notes sound like this. That's the first 5 notes of this G major scale. Now we're moving over to string number 2, and we're going to play at fret number 2 for our next note. String number 2, fret number 2. Staying where we are, string number 2, moving up to fret number 4, and finally up to fret number 5. So I'll just play through the whole scale so you can get an idea of how it sounds. This is G major, played over 1 octave for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Okay, as well as the major scales, we've got a few other different scales to play. They all start on the same notes as you've seen with the major scales, so we'll have E something, A something, G something. But the scale that we're going to look at is called a minor pentatonic scale. Now these have less notes in them than the major scale, so you might want to tackle these first. The first one we're looking at is an E minor pentatonic scale. Sounds and looks like this. Okay, a little bit simpler. We're starting on string number 4 and we play that string on its own. Our next step is to stay on string number 4 and then play it string number 4 and then play it fret number 3. Now we're going to shift over to string number 3 and play that on its own. And then play string number 3 at fret number 2. Now we're almost finished. String number 2 is coming next on its own. And then string number 2 at fret number 2. And that's your E minor pentatonic scale for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Okay, earlier we said that the A major scale was similar in its pattern to the E major scale, and there's a similar thing going on between the A minor pentatonic scale, which I'm about to show you, and the E minor pentatonic scale, which you've just seen. The A minor pentatonic scale sounds and looks like this. Okay, so we're starting on string number 3, played on its own. I'm going to stay on string number 3 and hold it down at fret number 3. Now we're moving over to string number 2, and we're going to play that on its own. Staying on string number 2, played at fret number 2. Going over to string number 1, played on its own. And finishing with string number 1, played at fret number 2. So once more, it sounds and looks like this. And that's your A minor pentatonic scale for the stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Okay, the last of these minor pentatonic scales, this next one is G minor pentatonic, so G for golf again. For this scale, similarly as we saw with the G major scale, there's not going to be any strings where you don't have to hold them down at a particular fret. All these notes are going to be notes that you hold down on the fretboard. Okay, we're starting with string number 4, played at fret number 3. Then we're going to move up to fret number 6, but we're staying with string 3, so string number 3, fret number 6. Moving over to string number 3 this time, at fret number 3, so string 3, fret number 3. Then we're going to move up to fret number 5. Now we're switching to string number 2 and fret number 3. And finally, string number 2, fret number 5. So the scale looks like this and sounds like this. And that's your G minor pentatonic scale that you need to know for stage 1 of the Edenham bass program. Okay, the last few things that you need to know if you're going to do the instrumental program at Edenham on the bass guitar is a little bit about some arpeggios. Now, an arpeggio is simply the notes of a chord. For example, a chord that a guitar player might be playing or a keyboard player might be playing. It's the notes of a chord played one note at a time. So instead of all three notes of a chord being played together at the same time, an arpeggio is just the notes of a chord but played one note at a time. Now we're going to look at major and minor arpeggios, and I'm going to show you two at a time. I'm going to show you a major arpeggio and a minor arpeggio, and there's really only one difference between the two. So we'll look at E major to start with. E major arpeggio sounds and looks like this. One more time. And an E minor arpeggio is very similar, sounds and looks like this. And there's really only one different note between the two, and if you're playing a major arpeggio, you'll use this note, that's string number 4, fret number 4, and the minor arpeggio uses this note, just one fret lower, string number 4, fret number 3. So let's look at it in a little bit more detail. An E major arpeggio starts with string number 4 played on its own. Next, we're going to hold string number 4 at fret number 4. We're going to move over to string number 3, played at fret number 2, and then follow that with string number 2, played at fret number 2. And that's your E major arpeggio. Now the only difference to play the E minor arpeggio is instead of holding string 4 at fret number 3, at fret number 4, for the E minor arpeggio you will hold string number 4 at fret number 3. And everything else remains the same. So your minor arpeggio, your E minor arpeggio, string number 4 played on its own. Then you hold that string at fret number 3, cross over to string number 3, fret 2, as you did before, and then finish with string 2, fret number 2, just like before. E major arpeggio, E minor arpeggio. Okay, moving straight on, you need to know about an A major arpeggio and an A minor arpeggio. Now I'm going to try and keep the explanation to a minimum, and you should be able to see from the video that the patterns are very similar to what we've seen with an E major and E minor arpeggio, except instead of starting from the bottom string, string number 4, we start from string number 3. So I'll play it nice and slowly so you can see what I'm doing. An A major arpeggio looks like this. So string number 3 on its own to start with. I'll play that one more time. A major arpeggio, string number 3 on its own, then hold it down at fret number 4, string number 2, fret number 2, and finally string number 1, fret number 2. Now the A minor arpeggio, in keeping with the first pair that I showed you, there's only one difference in the notes between A major and A minor. And when I play my first note, string number 3 on its own, instead of going to fret 4, I'm going to go to fret number 3. So my A minor arpeggio sounds and looks like this. And again, very similar to A major. So you got string number 3 on its own, and then hold it at fret number 3 for the A minor arpeggio, and the rest is the same as before. String number 2, fret number 2, string number 1, fret number 2. One more time for my A minor arpeggio. Okay, straight on to our G major arpeggio. Now this is slightly different because as we saw with the G major scale, there's no notes that we play on their own without holding it down on the fretboard somewhere. So all these notes for our G major arpeggio and our G minor arpeggio, we're going to hold down on the fretboard. Okay, so G major arpeggio sounds and looks like this. And our G minor arpeggio sounds and looks like this. So quite a difference from what we've seen before. G major to start with. First note is on string number 4 and played at fret number 3. So that's string number 4 played at fret number 3. Now we're going to move over to string number 3 and we're going to hold it down at fret number 2. Now we're going to stay with string number 3 and we're moving up to fret number 5. And our last note sees us moving over to string number 2, played at fret number 5. Our G major arpeggio one more time. Now our G minor arpeggio sees us changing hand position a little bit. We're still going to stay with our first note to start with, same first note to start with. So that's string number 4 played at fret number 3. That's our first note of our G minor arpeggio. But now for our minor arpeggio, we're going to stay with string number 4 and move up to fret number 6. Now we're going to move over to string number 3 and play that at fret number 5. And then finally, string number 2, fret number 5. So our G minor arpeggio looks like this. And so there you go. If you're going to play the bass guitar as part of the Edenham instrumental program, this video shows you all the technical exercises you need to know that relate to scales and arpeggios. If there's anything at all in the video that's unclear or there's anything that you're not sure of, please do come and see us in the music department and we'll be more than happy to help. Thanks a lot.